To kick off the conference, our first keynote speaker is Nicola Nye. Nicola is an executive leadership coach with Blackmill. Nicola has a wealth of experience in harnessing the power of an organisation and its people to create meaningful and in-demand solutions. Nicola's experience spans strategic development, product management, tech policy, program management, marketing, risk reduction, data protection, privacy development, executive leadership, and board advice. Fun fact, you can strike up a conversation with Nicola on her passion topics of hope punk, cats and chocolate. Today, Nicola will be sharing her insights on humanizing technology, a topic that is more relevant than ever in our rapidly evolving digital landscape. Please join me now in welcoming Nicola Nye.
Good morning, everybody. Lovely to be here. I would like to acknowledge the contribution that we had from Uncle Bill this morning and understand that we are just still, as white folks and even as our First Nations people, we're still learning and relearning about how we can respect the land, respect each other, and I find it deeply heartening to see communities like this coming together. Our Aboriginal folk know that the best way to build community is by joining together and sharing stories. And communities like this one are all about joining together. And in fact, the service and product that is Drupal is all about communication. But as Uncle Bill noted, historically we're not very good at respecting one another from time to time, and so that really struck a chord with me, talking about how technology has actually, in some respects, pulled us away from one another, and I think we've got a responsibility to humanise it once again. Thank you for my wonderful intro. I promise I'm not a robot. But if I was a robot, I would probably say that anyway. So you should come and talk to me and find out for yourself whether I'm going to pass the Turing test. I'm a bit of a generalist, and I flow to wherever I might see a need. And this has given me a bit of a view as how we as customers and consumers, as builders, educators, how we go about interacting technology across multiple disciplines. These days I'm a leadership coach with Blackmill Consulting, and I get to go into different organisations and help them solve the challenges that they're finding going on in their professional lives. The number one problem in computer science is people, followed by printing on Linux and naming. Now, the inspiration for this talk actually came from a phone call I had with a nameless government agency, and I needed some help. I'd already searched the website, I'd read the docs, but I needed to actually talk to someone to get the answers I wanted because my situation was not covered in what they had provided. Here is a menu of the humble auto attendant. This is what we call the software that you receive when you ring up someone and they give you an automated voice to try and help you get to where you want to go. Theoretically, it saves you time because you can get to the department you want without having to explain your story to a receptionist. And it saves the people on the other end lots of time because then they don't have to pay for the receptionist who has to listen to you fumble through what your problem is, and they've got to try and figure out where they need to direct you. Everybody wins. This is great. Sort of. Except that what most people do is end up shipping their org chart. You don't often get number one if you're a new customer, number two if you're an existing customer. What you often get is number one, sales, number two, support. However, most of the time, and for this government agency, once they've got it in place, they keep adding things. It ends up multiple layers deep. The menu I had to navigate looked like this. And by the time you're multiple layers in and you realise that none of the options work for you and you might need to go back a few levels, you can't. So you have to hang up and start again. I'm feeling my frustration come back just thinking about it. Finally, I get to the menu and I'm like, yes, I'm good, I'm in the right spot. They've even answered the call, fantastic. Only they tell me I'm actually not in the right spot and they're going to redirect me to another department. Great, I think, good, I've got inside information, I'm going to go to where I need to be. They transfer me into the void. There's no dial tone, there's no hold music, there is nothing. So I hang up and start again. Knowing what I know now, I have now made my way to the other department where I wait on hold for 20 minutes, maybe more, worried about my phone battery. The music's awful. I can't hold on anymore, I've got a meeting to go to, so I hang up. I try again on another day at a different time. I wait on hold. The call itself drops out after 40 minutes. I try again and I try again, and I pick a day where I've got plenty of phone battery and plenty of time, and after a bit over an hour, I get through. I can't even remember now what the problem was and whether they solved it. All I can remember is this very dehumanising experience of having to wait across multiple days and deal with this dreadful menu, trying to just get someone to help me. It certainly didn't help me. I was exhausted. I had been worn down so much by this experience, but by the time I finally got through to someone, I was just so grateful to talk to anyone. I was probably a bit incoherent. So this magical system that was supposed to make everybody winners, it didn't help me, but it does help them. The purpose of a system is what it does. Justin Warren's Keynote tomorrow will go into that a little bit more, and you can even go to his Redbubble and pick up stickers and other merch. I will leave it to you as an exercise for the reader. Why would any organisation put in place an attendance system that is confusing, bemusing, doesn't have a callback function? It's not human. But technology is great, right? We wouldn't have jobs without it. You certainly couldn't have afforded to come to this conference about it, or made your living about it, or written documentation about it. You're probably wearing about 3 different computers. So why am I talking about why technology has ended up in this place where we are dehumanising people? And I'll show you through this talk that the way that we built the technology that we've got is in fact a bit of a double-edged sword. And hopefully we'll be able to get down to the point of what we can do about it before we get so dehumanised we all turn into robots. So, tech really is great, right? I must be lying. Look at all these advances we've made. Look at all the innovation. Current day isn't even on this graph. It's probably somewhere up near the moon at the hockey stick growth we've got going on. We've had Stone Age, we've had Industrial Age, we've got the Internet age, maybe the next thing is the AI age or quantum computers, who knows? Heaps of advances. Now, our modern day understanding of what technology is certainly relatively recent. Personal computers have appeared in our lifetime, more or less, depending on whether you're my age or not. And it keeps accelerating. The first publication of Encyclopedia Britannica contained 3 books, and it took them 2 years to publish it. Just 13 years ago, Encyclopedia Britannica said, we're not even going to publish a print version anymore. It's dead, we're all going online. Wikipedia appeared about the same time Drupal was open sourced. And now, well, I don't have the current figures, but 8 years ago, there was over 100,000 people contributing to this amazing piece of open source. Super cool. Technology is great. All the bad stuff, we're getting rid of it, thanks to technology. Infant mortality, down. deadly diseases. We're getting on our way to eradicating a lot of them. Global poverty is decreasing. Our lifespan is increasing. We're sharing more knowledge. We're getting more collaboration. Tech really is great, right? Internet, technology, they've given us education, they've given us communication, they've built connection, and we've gotten rid of some boring stuff. We innovate because we want to advance ourselves. We want to get to the moon and beyond. We want to be able to have broadband everywhere. Australians would love to be able to have less latency and pretend that we live in the US. And so to achieve that advancement, we needed and produced and continue to have as a byproduct greater efficiencies, breadth and depth in terms of how we can scale. Manufacturing is now super cheap. I even own a 3D printer at home. I can build my own doohickeys. Mostly my kids use it to make, I don't even know what, tiny Pikachu figures. Services, ubiquitously available if you can find the website. And if you can't find something that you want, it's relatively easy to make it or have it be made for you. Super cool. So how do I go from tech is great to we are turning people into robots? Well, it turns out that we're a little bit lazy. I mean, efficient, we're efficient. Why would we do anything by hand if we can get a machine to do it? Now, we tell ourselves that computers are faster, more reliable, they're cheaper than doing it by hand. Are these lies? Well, not entirely, but maybe a little bit. The things that have produced all the good stuff are also our Achilles heel. Hopefully many of you have seen the classic project management constraint triangle. With computers, we have got fast and we've got cheap. So what misses out is good. Now, good in this context is often meant quality, but we don't want to sacrifice quality, so what we've actually sacrificed is scope. To sacrifice scope, what we need to do is optimise. So we've chosen, often when we build our software, to optimise for a particular path over all the others, the path that we think is going to be most useful. But if you don't fit on the path, like me trying to call up that government agency, you are now, the friction for you to achieve your job, task, is exponentially increased. So a few people, like the majority of people, get a little bit of gain, and if you don't fit on that bell curve, you get a heap of cost. Our app stores have given us a race to the bottom when we think about cheapness. What did this teach us? Well, it's taught us that free is always available and disposable. If you don't like what you've got, you can delete it and try another one. This is producing a systemic problem with open source as communities are sitting there and discovering how corporate technology and the forces of, the systemic forces of capitalism are actually driving some communities out of business. And we've seen splits in the past with WordPress community getting quite divided over should you and could you monetize open source. So what has that taught them? For those of us, we've learnt that things could be free, but it's taught them that if they can't charge their users for stuff, then they'll have to get the money some other way, and they get it through advertising, and then they try to advertise to bring more users, and they worked out that that's not very efficient. So in fact, the best way to get money is to sell your data to someone else. It's now not even about the product and service, it's about using that product and service to get you and the information about you and sell that off to somewhere else. So I would argue that cheap is maybe not actually all that cheap. It's just that the cost has shifted to somewhere that maybe we can't see. And this has happened because we're choosing computers over people. So we said that computers have brought about scale. Humans, we're not very scalable. It takes a good 20 and some would say 50 or more years before you can take a tiny human and turn them into a functioning adult. My children will tell me that I am actually an 8-year-old inside a grown-up's body. They're not wrong. Computers don't have labour laws. They don't get sick. So we're going to automate away the people and we're going to replace them with computers. But if you're going to automate away the people and replace them with computers, your customers still need to get hold of you. They still need to do their job. So we're going to put it all online where there's no humans. This has produced a generation of people who are allergic to phone calls. Yes, I can see some nods in the audience. I think my kids would die if I asked them to actually use a phone as a phone. One of my kids was actually surprised when I said the phone is a computer and that phone meant calling people because they'd never seen me do it. We tell ourselves lies about efficiency. We think computers can make anything more efficient, but really they're good at certain tasks. And we also don't really think about what we mean by being efficient. I could be highly efficient. I could make 10,000 widgets a minute. But if I'm only selling 10 widgets a minute, then now I have to store the other 990 that's accumulating every minute. Is that efficient? It's certainly efficient production, but it's not efficient in terms of the wider ecosystem. So are we using efficiency the way it should be used? Efficiency can be unevenly distributed. I have taught my children, accidentally, that the fastest way for them to get their laundry washed is to leave it strewn in piles around the house. Much more efficient for them than going along and sorting it and putting it in the laundry basket. Not so efficient for me. We tell ourselves lies about scale. We were sold the lie that David and Goliath could compete equally, that I could have my personal business and I could reach the same global number of consumers out there as multinationals. Multinationals have got a lot more money to spend on marketing and sales than I do. They've got lawyers who can deal with global tax implications. Also, our internet is full of 3,000 billion people with websites, which makes it hard for someone to find you, even if they're looking for you. And in fact, it makes it hard for you to get your service or product in front of people who might want to find you. And so the way you get people to see your website is to play the SEO game. And part of the way that we have trained ourselves to do it is by creating more content. And creating content is really effortful, so we've now got AI to do that. And so now we have got computers generating words to put on the internet so the other computers in the form of our search engines can serve up some information that hopefully is relevant and will take the person away from the AI-generated slop and into your website. We're building computers for computers. The one thing that we do have about scale is that it's lowered the barrier to entry for bad actors. If I want to send out a scam, I can send that to a squillion billion people, and if only 1% have that pass through their spam filter and they click on that link, I am making a ton of money. Information now really is everywhere. We have managed to scale that quite successfully. But that's come with surveillance, and that's not so great. We reckon doing things with computers is cheaper than people. And so that's great. We can help more people. We can do it faster, so long as they fit our predefined, optimised path. Otherwise, the cost is unevenly distributed. Maybe you've heard about the idea of a disability tax. Sure, it is expensive to, for instance, buy a wheelchair. But you're also paying in additional time and friction in terms of travelling anywhere on literally any mode of transport. You have to plan carefully in advance to make sure that you can get from A to B, that you can figure out how to navigate around a venue or get onto public transport. You've got additional care costs, and you often end up paying extra because you miss appointments or you're late, and so there is an additional cost to pay there because you're disabled, which means that you can't have problems getting to the things that you need. But now we're all finding out what the disability tax feels like. I recently waited on hold for 20 minutes before I could talk to my insurance company because our policy, turns out, is so old that it didn't exist online and I couldn't compare it to the plans that they have today. The customer support person had to find the document from the online equivalent of the dusty archives down the back, down a steep flight of stairs behind a sign saying, "Beware of the leopard." So if you want to gain the cheapness, the promised land of fast and cheap and good, you have to actually shape yourselves to the system in order for it to be easy. We reckon software is easily customised. Anyone who writes software knows that easy is maybe a bit of a lie, and if you've tried building software, this is part of the reason why software is not easily customised. Probably also seen the classic tree problem. Software is quite expensive to build because it involves those messy humans again. But often time and cost are not mutable, so corners get cut. And we often don't know what we want, and the people who are building it or trying to interpret what needs to be built maybe don't have the diverse understanding of what's going out there in the world. I heard at one point if you wanted to convert to SAP, first of all, you had to refit your business to be SAP compliant. We have optimised hard, we have saved time and money, but we're not putting it back into the ecosystem. Just ask Jeff Bezos. We believe in the efficiency of scale, but it's not exponentially endless. We've put computers everywhere. Computers are our interface to the world and to each other. I think we may be starting to lose our identity and our agency. So maybe we didn't lie to ourselves, but we didn't tell the whole truth. I would love to have a Lego Dalek. I'm quite excited about the vendor things that are happening. So nobody else put your name in the hat so I can win all of the Lego. And then I will lose it because my son likes Lego. So when I talk about humanising technology, what am I even talking about? Tools are neutral. The same Sharpie that can put a label on clothing is the same Sharpie that can write graffiti, except that we have literally given every single person on the planet about 50 Sharpies and they can now scribble on literally anything else around the world. It's not the Sharpie's fault. Why am I focusing on the dehumanisation of technology? What underpins so many of these issues is because we don't respect one another, and technology makes it really easy to behave badly. And this is why a bunch of communities online are quite toxic. Technology has given us scale and efficiency. It's made it really easy to harm people accidentally, and its features are bugs. I don't want to have to shape myself to operate through computers, unless I'm already a robot. I am hoping that we are just in the uncanny valley, that we have built a whole bunch of great stuff and we're now in the deeply uncomfortable phase where we are not getting good outcomes from the tech that we've built. For those of you not familiar with the uncanny valley, it is where things are approximately human, but not quite, and it makes us feel deeply uncomfortable. Lots of negative reactions. We might feel sick, or maybe we feel anger or disgust. Here is an image from the movie Tangled, featuring Rapunzel with her very long hair and her prince, Eugene. And if you've ever used a face swap app, it puts you squarely in the uncanny valley. I feel sorry for Maximus the horse. He was one of the greatest characters. So in terms of technology, the abacus didn't really make us feel anything. Smartphones, I actually feel quite connected to my smartphone. My parents once thought someone must have died because I had lost my smartphone and I looked so ill. Turned out it was on the roof of my car despite having driven for 10 kilometres. So I think we're maybe in the verge of getting it right. So I don't think we need to throw out computers. I don't think we need to get rid of all of that efficiency and scale that we've built. Tools are good, but we need to go forward from here. It's not an either-or proposition, but I hope we can do better. Move these priority knobs a little differently. Maybe instead of always choosing efficient, we could choose smooth. I want people to have a smooth experience. Instead of focusing on making it the cheapest we can, let's aim for sustainability. And instead of focusing on scale, scale is still good, but we want to have scale without the expense of connection. How do we do that? Well, this is part of why I'm here. I'm hoping that maybe we can get there through asking questions. Why even are we doing this? Do we know who it benefits? Who's paying the cost for this? In money, sure, but what about time and energy and spoons? Those of us in the audience who are neurodiverse understand that spoons is a limited commodity. It's your personal energy that you have to expend when you do things like, say, waiting on hold to a government agency on the phone that I don't like doing anyway. Where are your prioritisation sliders? Have you set them to the right levels? Profit is not a goal. I try not to make my talks into a giant anti-capitalist rant. Capitalism has brought us many great things, but I think that there are systemic forces that have brought things out of control. Don't make everything about profit. Profit is great, so long as you can reinvest it into making more advancements instead of just making a few people extremely wealthy. So we should tax billionaires. So when you're building software, when you're out there talking to people, when you're looking at systemic forces, when you're ringing up government agencies to get help, I want you to ask the hard questions. You don't have to have any answers, but you just got to get out there and help people think. Is this the best way for it to take place? Our tools should not be controlling our lives. Our tools should be helping us achieve things. We did warn that I'm a little bit into hope punk. Alexandra Rowland coined this quote. It said that hope punk is about genuinely and sincerely caring about something so deeply. And to do that requires bravery and strength. It's about standing up for other people. It's about demanding a better, kinder world and truly believing that we can get there. If we care about each other as much and as hard as we possibly can, with every drop of power in our little hearts, we can build that better world, a more humane world. So I'm going to ask you to have courage, that bravery and that strength, to ask the hard questions. I'm asking you to aim for kindness, bring together a community, aim for connection, and look for people over efficiency and profit. If you would like to find out a little bit more about some of the themes that I had in this talk, you will have to Google these things, or DuckDuckGo, or whatever your search engine of choice is. Susan K. Quinn writes a lot about hope punk, and in particular she talks about the 4 kinds of hope. And so when I come up here and I talk about hope punk, I'm trying to inspire in you catalysing hope that says the technology ecosystem we are in does not have to be inhumane, and we should build humanity back into the purpose of our systems. Thank you very much. I'm told it's break time now. Or maybe we've got a few minutes. I think I've got till 10:05. You could ask a really fast question, but I can't see anything. I don't know, do we have a room check? I mean, I'll just stand up here and do a dance. Who here has heard of Hope Punk before? Yes, I love to see it. Build connection, build community. Who here has ever had a terrible experience using technology? Yeah, I see that. Come and find me anytime. Yes.
My question, just a thought. I quite like the idea of user-centered design or human-centered design from an engineering point of view, but also as an attitude as a user. I've got the idea from Don Norman in the book Design of Everyday Things, which I think everybody in software should read. And he has the idea that if you as a user have a hard time using a thing, whatever it is, then it's not your fault. You're a human, and humans don't really change. It's the thing that has been designed for somebody else. It's been designed for non-humans. And often designers, engineers, or product owners of any stripe kind of expect users to change and become something other than human. Sort of adapt and sort of train ourselves to use the product. A lot of user interfaces are like that. We have to be, especially engineers become quite adept at being power users and becoming experts at jumping through mazes of menus and using, the terminal user interface is a great example of us becoming wizards at something that's in a lot of ways fundamentally inhuman. But that's not the way it necessarily should be or has to be. We've kind of gotten used to that idea, but we're doing that as a compromise because building a good user experience that meets the needs of that last 20% of people is extraordinarily expensive.
I don't know if people have heard this summary. We're talking about the design of everyday things, in which the author posits that if you can't use something or it's high friction, it's because whoever built that thing is not necessarily taking into account who you are and your needs, and that in doing so, we are asking that our people become inhuman. We're talking about the command line and user interface decisions and how us technologists are very good at building things that are endlessly customizable. And I see this a lot in open source software because we want to build it for the world. We want to build it for all the possible combinations, but as a result, we tend to end up with software that's quite hard to use. But what I also see in commercial software is human-centered design, or sort of UX design, is built sometimes for the wrong purpose. We use it in order to monetize our users, to suck them in and prevent them from leaving, not only through dark UI patterns and jargon, but also because we want people to use our products. We want to be able to profit because we want to get paid. But sometimes it's not to the benefit of the users, it's actually to the benefit of the company. So when you are building software and thinking about user interface design, make it easy.
Okay, let's thank Nicola again. Thank you.